Welcome to Upper Room Studios. This is the Road Home Podcast.
Back once again.
Yep.
Today we have a special guest.
Holden.
On his first Road Home debut is Holden Asa Tyler. Yeah.
It's like he knows he's supposed to be talking.
Yeah.
He's hamming it up for the camera.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We may hear some more from him. I actually think he's trying to sing.
Yeah. He loves to sing.
Anyway.
He'll sing along in the car.
He likes music.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that he's here. And that Jed's wife, my sister, is here. So you may hear a lot of that going out periodically through the episode here today. We want to jump right in. We felt at this time there had been some times we've mentioned this throughout the podcast that we said we've got to do a whole episode on this whole situation, because there's a lot to explain and kind of story tell without it. And it's y'all's testimony of how this guy got here.
Yeah.
But also of a very trying situation that you went through. Was it 2 years ago now?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're going to maybe not get into every single detail, but we're going to try to just kind of talk about how God helped y'all through such things, and what we saw that you've come out as stronger people for it. And this is not this is not for everybody to get down about. That's not our intentions. It's not, oh, I can't listen to that. That's too sad, or this is too hard for me to listen to. I can't do it. So I want to encourage you not to do that, because this is not the intention of this testimony storytelling.
We want to share this story to show what God can get you through.
Exactly. And how he has done that very much for y'all. So to begin with, could you just kind of, I don't know, either one of y'all can start out, but just kind of tell us the beginning and how that kind of starts out. What happened 2 years ago, of what you guys found out, some information that you were expecting.
So we found out we were expecting October the 4th, 21.
21. Then the next day, got up, went to work, and I got instructions to go get some pipe from where we get all the pipe from. And I went and took it to the job site, started unloading it, and sure enough, I stepped in a hole and broke my leg.
That's
well, I thought I sprung it is what happened.
So the fact he stepped in a hole.
Yeah.
Like he just stepped in a hole.
Yeah.
So
the way I was unloading the pipe, I stepped down in a hole, and I should have just stayed in my truck. So I thought I sprung it, and so, well, I'm just going to get back in the truck and keep going for the day. And I did that, and it just kept getting worse and worse throughout the day. And at the end of the day, I got home, I was like, all right, need to go to the hospital.
Well, he couldn't get his boot off.
Yeah.
That would be a good indicator that something was wrong.
Yeah. So we did that.
So I took him to the hospital, emergency room. We thought, okay, it's probably just a little fracture of some sort. Wait in there for a little bit, and they did x-rays, and they said, okay, they come back in, they was like, you broke it. You broke it pretty good.
Yeah.
And they said, and it's not just going to put a cast on it. You needed surgery for it. So we was like, oh my. So at this point, day before, just found out we was expecting. Second day, like, okay, find out he's broke his leg and all this. Going to have surgery. And you think, okay, making preparations in your mind, thinking, okay, we're getting ready to have a baby. He's going to be off work. How long is this going to take?
Yeah, I was scared.
Yeah. So you come up with all this information, a lot of things, life happens to you in just a little bit. But then we're like, okay, well, they said about 6-week recovery after the surgery. I'm like, okay, that'll work out, just be a little bit furlong there. So it was about a week later before he even got his surgery. But the day before he had surgery, there was some things that had happened that I thought I was going to miscarry. So I went for an ultrasound, and I was by myself because it was COVID time, so you couldn't really take anybody with you. Plus, he was not even
I was
had his
sitting in the
surgery
car
yet.
with a broken leg.
With a broke leg. So I went in by myself, and I was just hoping just to see at least a heartbeat. So I was in there, and the lady's like, just to give you peace of mind, I see a heartbeat. And she said, but I'm going to show you the screen. And she turned the screen around, and she said, there's one heartbeat. She said, and you look over here, she said, there's another heartbeat. Mm-hmm. And I was just wanting to see a heartbeat, not going in thinking, okay, that there would even be a baby,
Because before our firstborn, Gideon, you had had 3 miscarriages too.
Yeah, so we had a history of that, so, it wasn't uncommon. But after I saw that, I was, just in shock. Couldn't believe what was even going on. Okay, Jed's going to have surgery tomorrow. Just found out we're having twins. So I have to get to the car to tell him. He texted and asked, is everything okay? And I just sent, a happy face or thumbs up. And I get to the car and tell him exactly what the nurse said. And I think he just sat there with his mouth open all the way home. I was driving him home. It's like, what in the world? They're having twins.
Yeah.
So that was exciting.
We were happy.
Yeah,
we were
so
very
exciting.
Happy. Just scared.
And so then that was, I guess, that part of everything. And the next day he had his surgery. So.
And that's when I came and helped you in the house, and you were mean.
He was coming off the anesthesia.
Was I mean?
You weren't acting right.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was drugged up.
He was drugged up, coming off of surgery the next day. So then, eventually we started after Jed's surgery.
Jed came back.
Trying to get through that. He got
It's
home.
all coming out now.
He got home, and we start telling our family. Of course, everyone's excited. And it just, you think about having one baby, that's exciting. And then 2, it's scary, but it's exciting at the same time.
We were making plans of building onto the house and trying to make more room for him.
Yeah. So while he was down, we had a lot of time. We probably watched way too much TV. Watched way too much TV. I was so sick. Laid on the couch right next to Jed. Gideon probably had the run of the house. Was not a good thing, good time. But we had a lot of help from our family. Mm-hmm. So I think it was around sometime in November we went for another ultrasound in Nashville, and we could see the babies. They were still doing good. 2 babies. We found out one of them was a boy. We didn't know the other one was a boy for another month or so. Didn't tell our family that. Was still trying to determine if they were identical or fraternal. And if they're identical, there's a lot of complications that can happen with that. And so everything was still going good. We were just trusting, believing God, excited. Everything was working out. Their heartbeats were great every time. They'd say they look really healthy. They're strong. At one point they said their skulls looked so perfectly proportioned and just perfect. And so just every time we just thank God. I would say, praise you, Lord, for these babies, and getting us through this. And yeah, hallelujah. So right before Thanksgiving, sometimes it feels like when bad is happening, it all just comes at one time. So right before Thanksgiving, Gideon come down with the stomach bug. I had the stomach bug. Jed's trying to hobble around, take care of both.
I was
of
still
us
on
with the
crutches.
Stomach bug. It was just if it was going to happen, it happened at that point. And I'm not saying that just to say, to make it more of a sad story or more.
It was reality.
Yeah, it was reality. Yeah. This was what was happening.
When it rains, it was pouring.
Yeah, it was pouring. And it was like, okay, surely it can't get any worse, But we was coming to the end of Jed recovering from his 6 weeks, and he went for his, what was it, x-ray? Do you have another x-ray or something done?
Yeah.
Just a checkup?
Just to make sure everything was all good and healing like it was supposed to. Which I had went to back to work for a couple of days, just kind of slowly getting back into the swing of things, and went back to the doctor, and my leg, it started hurting again. Like I could barely walk on it. It took me forever to get just to walk a little distance. So went back to the doctor, and he took x-rays again, and he said, he walked in the room, and he sat down, and he said, well, it's broke again. And so I was like, what? And because I was in there by myself, she was at home. I was able to drive by myself, so I mean that was one good thing. But I just couldn't. I could hardly walk on it. It was in so much pain.
Mm-hmm.
So he said we're gonna have to do surgery on it again. The first surgery, they put a wire in the one bone and they tightened it down too much. So when it was healing, it caused the other bone to break. So all right, we scheduled the next appointment, the next surgery. It was I think a day or two after Christmas.
Yeah.
And so I get home, tell her everything, and we're kind of just we're in shock because we thought, well, what more can go wrong?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he come home and told me that, I was like, no, you can't have another surgery. I was already starting to get kind of miserable. I think at that point I was like 18 weeks or 17 or 18 weeks along, and I was getting big, twins and everything. Just thought with twins you get really big, and it's already getting miserable. I was having trouble getting down to put his boot on him and taking care of Gideon and trying to potty train him. And I was like, I remember just sitting down on the floor after he told me that and just bawling, crying. I was like, we can't do this again. We can't go through, you being down for 6 more weeks and not knowing how it was going to work out, financially and all that. But, of course, you went through it.
Yep,
you
went through it, got through it.
God got you through that. So that was December, I think the 27th or 28th of 21. And I'd already had an anatomy scan scheduled for the very next week. So thankfully we had so many people that helped us get to doctor's appointments because going to Nashville, I can't drive to Nashville. It was hard. And he was 1 week out of his surgery, and we went, Mom and Daddy took us. It was January the 4th. And I had an anatomy scan, and they was looked at the boys. We discovered they were both boys. And they said they look great. Both of them was doing good. Heartbeats were good. Brain function, activity was great. Only thing they said was we discovered they were actually identical at this point. And they said that one of them had just a slightly bit more fluid than the other. And they said, but we'll check again in 2 more weeks. So he's like, okay. Everything's good. We was excited.
We thought it was all fine, just regular twin checkup stuff.
They said
taking extra precaution.
Just so you know, you're going to be having a lot more ultrasounds from here on out. And so he's like, okay, that's just, twins are high risk, and but we was excited because so far God had answered so many prayers, got us through things, and it was just, find out you're having 2 more boys, so he's going to have 3 boys all together. A lot of work. But we was excited, looking forward to it. So that was in January the 4th. So 2 weeks later, we go back for the ultrasound, and it takes a long time. It was probably a 2-3 hour ultrasound sitting in there.
We had to go to a different place, a different kind of specialist.
It was a maternal fetal medicine doctor. So we was in there for a little while, and I was thinking, this is taking a while. And the whole time, even though I trusted God that everything was okay, I could just tell something wasn't right with as long as it was taking. And when they were done, she said, okay, here, you'll have to go talk to the doctor. So we get in there, and she starts telling us all these things, and I'm still trying to process it. I'm like, what? And she says, so your twins, they have twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. And she's like, did they even tell you about that at your last appointment? And I was like, no, I don't know what that is. So she starts explaining it, and it happens with identical twins because they share one placenta, and the placenta sometimes they share one blood vessel. And so one will be a receiver twin, one will be a donor twin, so one is not as healthy as the other, or they're having to share a lot, and it just, causes a lot of complications. So she said, but you're going to have surgery in order, for them to make it or to have a possibility of surviving. So I was thinking, okay, surgery.
All right, we'll get through this too. And,
but then,
and they said that we're going to send you to either Houston or Columbus.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Thank you.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
Yeah, either Houston or Cincinnati. And I had her tell us again. I was like, Houston, Texas? And she said yes. And So then we were kind of like, whoa, that's kind of a lot. And we
Yeah.
could have either drove to Cincinnati or get a plane and fly to Houston.
Yeah, but the only thing was they wanted it done within 24 hours.
Yeah.
So that was the scary part. Was one thing neither one of us had ever flown before. Secondly, I'd never had a surgery before, and then being told that this had to be done in order to save our babies.
Yeah.
It was just a lot to process, and in the meantime, my whole family, minus Micah, was in Florida. And so Jed's mom was having to help us that day. But it was like everybody was scattered abroad, and it was bad weather that day. They was calling for snowstorms to start coming in. I think it was raining already, but temperatures were dropping. So we left there, and I didn't even know what to do. I was like in shock, and I was trying to process it, but I was crying. And when you get told something's wrong with your babies, you're just you lose it sometimes. Wasn't taking it very well, but I was gonna do whatever it took to, if that's what God was leading us to do, that's where we was gonna go to Houston, Texas. So had different people helping us get figure out how to get plane tickets and transportation. We'd never flown before, of course. If you remember, Jed was only a few weeks out from his second surgery,
Right.
wasn't allowed to walk.
There was no weight bearing.
Yeah.
You need to explain. This is nothing is funny about this.
No, it's not funny.
This is not funny. Okay, but you need to explain what you were doing, because we had been out a little bit, doing things, and so you had borrowed.
Yeah, so during like Christmas time and things, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah, in order for me to get around, I had to borrow my grandpa, which he's in his 80s. He's got this little motorized scooter. If you ever watched Despicable Me, Dr. Nefario, it kind of looked like that buzzing around. And it was a fold-up kind, so it was about the size of a suitcase. And it looked kind of comical, me going around on it and trying to get from place to place, fold it up, put in the back, and had to figure out if we could even take that on the plane because
the batteries.
Yeah, the battery didn't know if it was.
Otherwise, you're on crutches.
Right. Yeah, and it's taken forever to get from one place to another.
Yeah.
So yeah, we get all that figured out, get home, and Billy, he helps us at the airport. He flies to Texas with us. So
Yeah, your dad called me. I was working.
yeah,
He said, I need you to do something for me. And he said, can you go to Houston, Texas with Jed and Emilee? And I had no idea.
yeah.
Really, none of this was going on because you guys had just found out, so
Yeah.
This is all within 2 hours.
what was going on. So I didn't have a clue. But Brad called me up. He said, I need you to go fly with, because they'd never flown before, I need you to go fly with Jed and Emilee to Houston. So I was like, oh, man. So it was bad weather.
Yeah.
So I had to drive home I was working in Russellville, and I drove about as fast
an hour drive.
I drove
from
about as
Russellville
fast
to
as I
home.
could to get home to get my stuff. So
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah, it's like you said, when it rains, it pours. And not to make this, add any exaggeration to the story, this is literally what was happening.
Yeah.
It was like, how a movie will portray it like that, but this was real life.
Yeah. It was
raining.
pitiful. Just be honest, it was
Yeah.
pitiful.
And we had, if we didn't have Billy with us, we wouldn't have been able to even navigate the airport. For one thing, I couldn't pack the baggage. I couldn't carry his thing because I was pregnant, and he was on crutches or on the scooter, and so that helped having Billy to carry that.
And then while we're getting ready, we're having to wait for my brother to come get Gideon and take him back to my mom and dad's house because Gideon couldn't go with us, and
Yeah.
all your family was
Gone.
in Florida.
Yeah, and it was getting ready to start snowing,
Yeah.
so they was
and we had to make
trying to
the
get-
airplane
And
too.
yeah.
had to get to the airport.
Yeah.
But on top of it, it was the first time Gideon had ever had to stay away from us
Right.
Yeah.
as well. So he was only 2 years old at the time. He was excited, at the moment, but I told him, okay, we'll be back in just a couple of days because that's what they
Yeah,
told
it was
us.
supposed to be just a quick surgery and then
I would
release
return
us.
home.
Yeah.
This was on a Wednesday, and they said I would return home by Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Isaiah, he came and got Gideon, and we rushed him off and got our bags together. Then here came Billy, and we was all, headed to the airport, and it starts getting like slushy.
Yeah, and we're in Kentucky, southern Kentucky. We had to go to Nashville to
Yeah.
fly out, so it was an
Hour and
hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As soon as y'all left, we prayed.
Yes, you came
We
to the
prayed at the
house.
car. I had just got off work, And I came and I was praying with y'all. As soon as y'all got in the car, I said, y'all go. And we prayed. As soon as y'all left, it started to rain. And I got drenched.
Yeah.
And so I go back home and it was ordeal. But I mean, for the next 2 days, an ice storm moved in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we got on the airplane, when it was taking off, of course, it was the first time ever flying, so I was staring out the window. It was like rain, and all of a sudden you see snow.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like on the movies when it's like Star Wars and you see the snow flying.
Yep.
That's what it looked like. But where was it? We was headed to
We
Houston.
had to go to Dallas.
Yeah, it was like a little bit of a layover.
Yeah,
in
so
Dallas.
we flew to Dallas, and then we didn't have to get off the plane,
Yeah.
but we had to stop at Dallas to let people off and get people on to go to Houston.
Yeah. So this, from the time, like I'd mentioned earlier, I was at an ultrasound that morning in Vanderbilt, Nashville, Tennessee. That was early that morning, like 6 or 7. And this was like 6 or 7 at night when we left the airport. So this was all in a 24-hour period, everything that was happening. And we take off, and, you know, first plane flight was a little bit nervous, but I was more nervous about the surgery coming up. And we're on there for a while. It was some turbulence, so they had to stay in the air because there was a storm moving over. Was it Houston?
Over Houston, because we had already left from Dallas, and we were flying to Houston, and then we were just making ovals. You could see it on the plane map. We just kept making ovals back and forth, back and forth.
We was in the air forever. I think it ended up being like 4.5 hours or something altogether. But I was tired. I was wore out from the whole day, and I started feeling some pressure from being on the airplane, and I wasn't even really noticing too much. I just thought, I just got to get to that hotel bed. I'm so exhausted. I feel so exhausted. So after circling in the air, I think we circled in the air for probably an hour and a half, and we finally landed. When we landed, I felt like a pop or like a sharp pain, and we start, gathering our stuff and getting off the plane. Well, I make it to the, I don't know what that's called. The
Terminal.
The terminal? Is that what that is?
Yeah, well, we got out. We got out into the it is gate.
Yeah, the gate.
At the gate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a flight attendant. She looked at me. She said, "You don't feel well, do you?" And I was like, "No, I don't." So she grabbed me a wheelchair, and I think Jed was still trying to get off the. I don't think he made it off the
and it
plane
was
yet.
late at night, so there was nobody in the airport.
No one at
Like
all.
you couldn't get. We found a janitor or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like there was nobody to call for
It was
help.
dead.
There was nothing.
It was close to. It was probably 11:30 at night.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really late.
There's a
And-
time difference too. From
Yeah.
Time difference, and I started having pain immediately. I was like, I knew, because I previously having Gideon, I was like, this ain't right. Something is wrong. This is not right. I was feeling so bad, and then they started coming like every 2-3 minutes apart.
Yeah.
So then they found me a wheelchair, and I think Billy ended up pushing me, and Jed's like on his scooter behind me, trying to find someone to call an ambulance because
We had
supposed
made
to
it to security.
security.
They helped us get to security, and then security is who called the.
Yeah. And it took a while for the ambulance to even get there.
Well, remember they were on the other side of the airport.
Yeah.
So they had to come from the other side of the airport to us.
Whatever it was, it felt like the longest time. Like, why can't they just get me to a hospital?
Yeah.
It was so long. It felt so long.
I felt so helpless because I was like, I can't. I prayed, but it was like, when you're in that situation, I didn't know what to do.
You don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't help you. I felt so bad. I felt, Lord help me. I can't do anything.
That's. I think everybody was that way. Everybody I know.
Yeah,
But
and
you
then
calling people to pray and you don't know how to pray.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Micah was stuck at home alone in a snowstorm.
That was that was a little
Phones were dying.
Yeah. my
Remember
phone was
I had to plug your guys' phones
Yeah.
up. I mean, phones were dying. It was miserable.
Yeah.
So let's move. They finally do get to the hospital.
Yeah, we got to the hospital.
Well, but you gotta. So we were on the other side of Houston,
yeah.
and they called and got an ambulance.
Right. So it's a long drive.
They're supposed to, and according to their thing, they're supposed to take you to the nearest hospital. So they ended up. We didn't really know the Did we
I was
not
like,
know the hospital name?
No, they said, where are you supposed to be going? I was like, I don't know. I was like, just take me somewhere, but
And I think I knew of a name that was mentioned, the hospital that was mentioned. And so I told them that. Well, they drove you all the way across Houston to this hospital.
Yeah.
So that was something in itself, and they weren't supposed to do that, but they drove.
Yeah. And
So,
they took
okay.
us all the way
All right.
there.
They get to the hospital.
Yeah.
Got to the hospital.
I just thought that was interesting because she could have ended up in a worser hospital.
Yeah.
Sounds like
It was a random.
sounds like a lot going on because it was.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
yeah.
was chaos.
Yeah.
Basically, just chaos.
When we finally get to the hospital, they unload her out of the ambulance, and we're at a back door for.
Outside
yeah.
in the rain. It was raining in Houston. I was on a stretcher with it raining on top of me.
And I'm standing there with my crutches. Billy, he's got all the luggage and my little scooter that I got, so I didn't even have that with me. And
Yeah.
like I said, we're sitting there forever. Finally, someone comes open the door for us, and I don't know, I felt like we had to go halfway across that hospital to actually get you to a room. And in the middle of all of it, you're having contractions and going through
I was
stuff.
in labor.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of like fast forward a little bit. You know, I'm admitted in the hospital, supposed to have the surgery. That was the reason we
Right.
went.
But we didn't even wind up being at the hospital you were supposed to go to.
Yeah, come to find out, I went to
Yeah.
the wrong hospital. They didn't have my information or anything. Which, how was we supposed to know? I was in the middle of labor,
Right.
and they'd sent me. You know, this had been like a 24. I've been awake for. I didn't even sleep the night before my first appointment, so I was so tired and in labor. How are you supposed to know what you're doing in that moment?
Right.
But anyways, so get admitted, and long story short, they basically tell me that I was just going to lose the babies, that they would be born. On the ultrasound, they look fine still to me. They had heartbeats. They were moving around and kicking. And they were telling me that there was nothing they could do. They were just going to be born, and we would get to hold them until they passed away. And in that moment, it was kind of fearful, but I was like, no, this ain't happening. This is not going to happen. God wouldn't bring me all the way to Texas to just let me have my babies and they die.
Right.
So I made it, I think it was all night long. They was trying to keep me somewhat in a position so that I didn't continue, because labor kind of slowed down. So he's trying to keep me in a position where it wouldn't happen. But anyways, several other details that I won't go into, but God kept his hand on me, and things did end up slowing down. And the next day, there was, I don't know what you call him, but he was like, I don't know, end of life type of person.
Yeah.
He come in to talk to us about what we would do and kind of comfort us with, you know, if the babies was to pass away. And I looked at him and I said, my God has brought me this far. And I said, I could have miscarried him early on. I said, he's brought me this far. He wouldn't let me be here in this place, so many miles from home, just for my babies to die. I said, I said, I won't be needing, you know, that clergyman or whatever. They was going to send a clergyman in to help us. But at this moment, they were still kicking around. I could feel them kicking around, and they had monitors on them. Their hearts were beating. They were doing really good, which with twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, it is very aggressive, and it happens very fast. The things that happen with it, fluid builds up, and just a lot of stuff. I'm sure you can look it up and read more into it if you're interested. But for the sake of the story and the testimony, I'm just going to get past that. So we were there this was on January the 19th, and they're like, okay, as long as we keep you stable, you can make it. If we can get to like 24 weeks if they're born, they can go in the NICU, you know. So keep making it every day. And I'm like, okay, we've made it.
For the most part,
day.
we had pretty good doctors and nurses come in. That was real encouraging. And the one lady, one of our nurses that come in, she was super encouraging, and she said these babies will make it.
Yeah, they will make it. She said they have a purpose. God has a purpose for their lives, and just really encouraging. And I could feel the presence of God. I'd play praise music, and we was watching live stream churches everywhere. We'd call and talk to Micah, or we'd call and talk to my family. You know, people was praying with us, praying for us everywhere. It felt like all over. You know, I don't even.
And
know
at this
how many
point,
people-
Billy, he had went home because he had to get back to his family and get back to work. So
Once he discovered that I was stable,
Yeah.
you know, he ended up leaving. But so we was there. It was trying to think. That was the 19th when we arrived, and then it was the 27th. I went back into labor. And I was so miserable that night. And I even remember thinking in my mind, you know, I was at peace that if something happened, you know, that everything was going to be okay. But I was kind of, in a way, I was kind of miserable enough to where I was like, okay, I kind of wanted to be over with. But I still didn't know what was going to happen. And that was all day long. Anyways, on the 28th, it was that evening of the 28th, they were born. They said there was nothing they could do.
They were just too small. They couldn't put any kind of life support on them or anything.
They were born. They were both. They told us that they would probably have already passed away when they were born, but they were both born alive. They just laid them up on my chest. They kicked around, sucked their thumbs, and was grabbing for each other. They both alive. They lived for 3 hours, and in those moments, I was still thinking, you know, with them on my chest, I thought, they're going to see that they're alive and they're going to do something, you know, or they're going to stay alive. God has brought them this far that they said they were going to be dead before they were born, and they were born alive. And
we even still had hope that they would survive.
Yeah.
Even with the doctors saying that they're just too little, we had hope that they would survive.
Yeah. And at this point, they were 21 weeks and 4 days gestation. And they had to be like 22 weeks, I think, for them to even consider putting them in the NICU. So, you know, we thought, well, it's close enough that, you know, God's brought them this far, they're going to make it. But that wasn't the plan.
Right.
And I suffered a lot of things with my body. Nearly lost my life in giving birth to them. So God brought me through that. I had to have 2 blood transfusions. But in the whole time, the whole process, I just had so much faith that, you know, there was a reason for this and that God was still going to bring us through it. And I had faith. I said, Lord, you go before me. This is what I said as they took me back to delivery. I said, you go before me, you're behind me, and you're with me right now. And I remember calling my family and saying, I'm going back to labor and delivery. Y'all know what to do. Pray. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen. But I was still expecting, you know, when I called them that everything was going to be okay. So that was at one point, I think I was like at 5 in the evening and ended up, I think it was like maybe way after, you know, I'd went through all that trauma and everything with blood loss. And finally made it back to where I was, you know, at myself, and the babies had already passed away after the nurse had took them. So we had to call our family, and, you know, that's the most devastating thing. Everybody had so much faith, so much hope that they were going to make it. We had people praying everywhere for them. It was like, how could this happen when there's so many people praying?
Yeah.
But we know God has.
We had people from Wisconsin, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, all over the country. We had people praying for us.
Yeah. So, anyways, that was.
We wound up naming them Carson and Nathan were their names.
Yes, Carson and Nathan. They were born on the 28th of January, which will be 2 years it'll be Sunday, the 28th of this month.
Yeah, I think, I don't remember when this comes out.
Yeah, we was there in the hospital a couple more days. My mom and daddy, they drove all night long to get to us while I was in labor and delivery. They drove
I'll just add this real quick. The morning of the 29th, we're waiting for her parents to get down there, and Brad calls me, and my mom had just called him, and my cousin, she had lost her baby that same morning. That the baby had died from SIDS, and so we were going through that too, and like we were trying to process everything. It's like, God, why are we going through this? What's going on here? We just lost ours, and then my cousin, she lost her baby, and
it's like, what is happening?
Yeah,
you know, what is happening?
It felt so hopeless at that moment.
You feel abandoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like God has left.
Yeah.
Like, not sugarcoating it at all. Like, God, I prayed this.
Yeah.
Right.
You left me.
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that's
it
the
tested
feeling.
our faith so much of either staying with God or leaving God.
Yeah.
It tested it at that moment.
And I will say, like, shortly after, you know, it was a shock. It really was.
Yeah.
Because you have a future that you see, you know, when you're planning things. Anybody does when they're expecting a baby. You have this future that you see, And then all of a sudden it's wiped away, and you're like, what is our future now? What's that look like? We were going to have 3 sons, and now we are back to, we just have our son Gideon.
Right.
Which if we didn't have him to go home to, I don't know how we would have made it. But he was such a joy in that time.
And your parents were bringing him down to
Yeah, they brought him to Texas, you know, once everything happened, and they were such a help. Mom and Daddy both were, support and help. But it was hard for the whole family and everybody around us that was close. It was hard for everybody. But to kind of fast forward a little bit, you know, after we got home and all that, it sunk in, you know, that everything happened. But at first it's just like, okay, I'm more so just let down. Like, okay, God's let me down is how I felt. I never got angry at him. I don't want to say that, you know, I didn't question why or what was going on, but I just felt so let down, almost like you trust someone and then that trust is broken almost. So this is what we had to fight in my mind and deal with for months afterwards. And at first it was just, I was peaceful. I was making it through it. You know, everybody say, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm doing okay. I've got the comforter. I've got God. I could not make it without him. People were telling me I was so strong. And I was like, I'm not strong. My only strength is God.
Right.
And when you're going through things like that, you got no other choice but to go through it. And people say, well, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Now, I come to the conclusion of that. No, if it don't kill you, it just don't kill you.
Right.
True.
Yeah.
It just don't kill you. You're just still here.
Yeah.
And you either, you know, you have to get up and take another step, or you're just going to lay down. So it was a whole process. And, of course, Jed's still healing, too. So we were, you know, at home afterwards.
Yeah.
I think we ended up being in Texas like a total of 10 days. And we were gone a total of 2 weeks. Felt like years
Yeah.
in that time. But after the funeral and everything, we was home and just holding on to each other and getting in and just taking everything in.
Yeah.
And
It was
trying to
still a
recover.
few weeks, probably a month before I actually went back to work.
Yeah.
Because I was still healing. Went and had all my staples took out for my surgeries. And a guy that worked with us at the time, his daughter worked in the doctor's office that I went to. So all the doctors there found out about everything, and they come in and said they were sorry to hear about everything. And
Everyone was just very nice. And
yeah.
I think it took a toll on everybody.
Yeah.
Like we weren't going through your situation,
Right.
Yeah.
but we all felt it and we all questioned why God.
Because
Right.
everybody
You know,
had faith.
Yeah, why did you do that? I remember talking to Cody. He goes to church with us, and I thought we were just talking about why would God, why did God allow this to happen? And so it not only did it affect you guys, which it affected you way more than
Right.
any of us could ever imagine, but at the same time, we felt that same, why didn't God do that? I guess questioning the things of God.
Because so many people had so high faith. We all had such high faith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even going through the middle of it and everything.
When you go through something like that, you got to have crazy faith.
Yeah, crazy
Yeah.
faith.
Yeah.
And it was crazy high faith, but it wasn't in vain. I don't say her faith was in vain.
No.
Prayers weren't in vain. Believing that God can do the impossible was not in vain.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, I'll say this on my part. Like I would go to work, and I remember like the day after the funeral, somebody came up to me and said, "Hey, what'd you do this weekend?" Like your normal conversation. And just out of nowhere, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what I did." And it just suddenly hit me, and I had like, "Oh, I know exactly what I did."
Yeah.
And like, I went to my nephew's funeral, and I was like, who has to say that? That's not saying that, people don't go through everything, but it's just the fact that we were in such faith that reality didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we didn't believe reality. Like all of us, and especially y'all, and that's why it was so traumatic.
Yeah.
But I want you to speak to this. So, in this process of healing, people say stupid stuff. Like,
Yes.
okay, people say stupid stuff. They don't mean to say stupid stuff. They say stupid stuff. Okay? They don't mean they're stupid. That just means that they say stupid stuff.
Yeah.
But I want you to talk about talking about things when nobody wants to talk about them.
Yeah.
Okay. How to navigate talking through what no one wants to listen to?
It's hard because, after coming home and recovering, and
People act different around you.
of course, I had a period of having to recover, my body recovering, and Jed's still recovering. Life starts kind of getting back to somewhat of a normal. And, we had so many people that came to the funeral and family that sent out messages and cards and brought food and helped us out, supported us, shortly after. But it was the months afterwards when we were trying to get back to what our new normal was going to be. And you want to talk to someone, you be out in public, and I remember being out in public or first coming back to church, and so many people will kind of not know how to handle the situation when you're going through grief. They kind of just want to ignore you. Not ignore you, maybe they're not thinking they're ignoring you, but they don't know how to deal with it, so they just kind of, let's not talk about that, avoid it. I had so many people say crazy things to me, like, God needed your babies more. And I said, he didn't need them. He had everything. He's made everything. He has everything he needs.
Yeah.
Or you got some angels in heaven, and none of these things comfort you. And I know people intentionally aren't trying to hurt you, but people do say crazy things. Sometimes you don't have to say anything back to someone if they're trying to get through an emotion or get through a hurt. They just want somebody to listen to. I just wanted somebody to talk to.
Just say, I'm sorry.
Yeah. All you have to say
It
is,
wasn't
I'm
like
sorry.
that.
Say, I love you, I'm sorry, I'm praying for you. Those are the most comforting words. When people try to start fixing it, because I think that's human nature, people want to try to fix things, it just makes it worse. It's like, that was so stupid, But, I don't know, people don't always understand, and not everyone's went through trials like this to this extent. I know people have went through trials, and it's the worst thing that's happened to you up until that point. Just like for us, we have went through this, but that's not as bad as some things could be for other people.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all part of your own journey.
Yeah.
And nobody's the same. Like, everybody is not measured by the same scale because you go through different things.
Yeah. And that's our life. That's what we've been through. That's been our family growth experience.
Yeah. It's been our story.
It's been our story. But there is hope at the end. It was a whole year after the twins were born. It was a whole year of. I won't say it was easy. I probably went several months where I didn't even sleep at night, and I would try to pray, and it would just end up in just tears. Couldn't get words out until I think it was in September of 22. And I started making a prayer journal because I was like, God, I can't pray physically because the words don't come. So I started writing down my prayers. And a lot of them at first, I was reading back the other day, a lot of them was just, I don't understand. And I felt like David in the book of Psalms a lot. How David would be like lamenting before the Lord.
Yeah.
That's how my prayers were. And then when I was reading back through them, I started noticing a change in them. And it was like, even though I don't understand, I trust you, God. I trust you. You've been with us. Could not have made it. I could have died. Then reality hit that, okay, you didn't save my boys, but you saved my life.
Right.
And you brought
There
me
was so much that happened that we didn't even know about
Yeah.
till later on.
Yeah, so and we can't, there's so many more details. We can't go into everything because it would take so
I think that's why it was important, the hospital that you got to.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you hadn't been to that hospital, you would have lost your life.
That was what I was trying to point. I didn't want to get ahead of the story,
okay.
but I just wanted to say they drove you all the way across to get to this hospital.
Yes.
Well, even right down to the very nurse that we had while the boys were being born, if we didn't have that nurse, things could have Holden might not be here today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it was a better hospital than you were supposed to go to as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It was like the #1 hospital that you ended up in Houston.
In Houston, yeah.
So
it was like the 5th in the United States.
Yeah.
Something best or whatever. But yeah, if I hadn't been at that God had a plan the whole time. If I hadn't been at that hospital, I might have not been here today.
Right. Even if we went to Cincinnati, or if it would have went to one in Nashville or anywhere like
Kentucky.
that,
Right.
we know God had to put us at that very hospital. And then you might ask, like, well, why didn't God just heal your body? Why didn't he just keep the boys alive?
And that's when it starts being a circle. And,
Right.
and you just got to be like, okay, I can't think about that.
right.
Yeah.
You know, God knows what's best.
Yeah.
Right. And it's been 2 years now, and there's still days that I ask God, why did all that have to happen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But through it all, you know, I ain't saying it made us stronger. Might be a little more stronger. I don't know. But I see things different. I see situations differently. And I won't even say that I healed immediately. I'm still not completely healed, because how do you heal from losing 2 sons?
Right.
You know?
It's always going to be a scar on us.
Yeah. But the pain is a little more less than it was. It's not as fresh. But we are coming up on their 2nd birthday on the 28th. But it was a year later, so
Not even a year. It was like just a couple weeks shy of a year.
yeah. And we found out about this little guy. And that's a whole nother journey in itself, is that the trust that I had to have for God. Because I was thinking, you know, was I going to miscarry? Was I going to, you know.
Yeah,
but
it was a constant
it
fear.
was a constant in your head, because it's almost like you get burned. You get a little bit, you know, scared.
Mm-hmm.
But I still had to trust God. And it was a whole faith journey through his pregnancy.
I don't think we even told your family till you were.
Sometime in March.
Yeah, you were in your 2nd trimester already.
Yeah. So it was sometime in
Which
March.
Gideon, he knew for quite a while, and surprised that he kept a secret that long. And he didn't tell nobody.
Yeah.
No, he told me, but I didn't know he told me. So that's good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so the whole time with Holden, you know, it was just a trust and faith thing, a trust and faith.
Yeah.
And it was a mind battle, you know. I've trusted you before, God, but is everything going to be okay this time?
Yep.
And I've been told by different men of God that, you know, things were going to be better, that God was, you know, going to restore. So I kept that word in my heart, restoration and healing. It's like, this is going to be our healing. This is going to be our year of healing. And it was, of course, this past year was 2023. And I did take that chapter of Psalm 23, as our healing, you know, that he restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake.
Yep.
You know, the whole chapter.
Yep.
So yeah, every ultrasound we had with him, he's like, he's perfect. Everything's good. Everything's great. No problems. He's perfect. Even all the way up into his birth, you know, we kept thinking something you know, was going to happen, but it didn't. God just, he blessed. He answered every prayer. I wrote down so many prayers in this book. God answered every prayer with him, how his birth happened, how his, you know, his health. He's a big old strong boy.
He's a big boy.
See this?
He's 4 months old and already in your clothing.
Yeah, 4 months old right now. But just his little life has been such a blessing, because it's almost like God, even though there's not 2 of him, and you think, how do you replace 2 with 1? But there's so much of him.
Right.
And I'm just so thankful that God brought us through, you know, the hard times, and he's with us in the good times. And God is good, no matter if you're in the bad or the good, you know. And for you to be able to say that, at one point I thought, how can I say God is good? But I can say God is good, because he has brought me through it. He's brought me through so much and delivered me, and I'm just so thankful for the journey.
And we named him Holden because, by the grace of God, we were going to get to hold him.
Yeah. And it might be a little cliche, but we get to hold this baby forever. And his middle name is Asa, and that means to heal and to restore what was broken. And He has been a big part of our healing journey, and we're just so thankful for him.
Amen.
Yeah.
You might be able to hold him now, but wait till he's a big boy.
I want to say this before we kind of close this out. I want to say this. If you're listening and you have went through a similar situation, I want to tell you this. I know that a lot of you can find some Christian people out there that's going to tell you exactly what you want to hear. They're going to tell you that once you come to God, everything is smooth.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you that if you live for the Lord, you're going to win the football game.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's the message we get from Christian media a lot of times. If you just honor God,
Automatically.
everything's going to work out.
Yeah.
You're just going to be blessed here and there. No, here is what we learn this. God delivers us.
Yeah.
God does what he can do. God is sovereign. God is a good God, absolutely good. He doesn't do evil to his children. However, we live in a fallen, sinful world where sickness, disease, death exists. And the Bible says that death will be the final enemy that is destroyed. And it's not destroyed yet, but one day it will be. Jesus conquered death when he went to the cross. And the only way you can make it through anything is if you have Jesus Christ living on the inside of you and you are living as the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus. And let me just tell you, it rains on the just and the unjust. Like they said, when it rains, it pours sometimes.
Yeah.
And like millions of situations, whether you've broken your leg and your wife's pregnant and you're riding around on a scooter in the middle of a Houston airport with your cousin, and it sounds crazy.
Yeah. I got in an Uber at like midnight with somebody I didn't even know, and I'm carting around Jed's cart.
I mean,
I've got my own
crazy.
stuff. I mean, it's just wild.
But he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him and he'll direct your paths. That doesn't always mean that the path is going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
But here is something that I've been telling people, and I believe it to be true because I've found it biblically and also through many life experiences, that everybody goes through things. Yeah. Whether you are living for God or you're living like some rotten reprobate, okay? Everybody goes through stuff. The problem that you're going to have to figure out is, who do you put your trust in?
Right.
Do you trust in God to bring you out of these? He says yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow, of death.
Yeah.
Do we trust in the shepherd, or do we listen to the stranger?
Yeah.
And so many people that they listen to the stranger, they end up getting on drugs, or they run to the addictions of their flesh, and some of them end up killing themselves because of not just the events. You're talking about the mind battles afterward, the depression, the fear, the anxiety, the trauma, and all these things. So many people run to the secular answers that man tries to give to you. All of these are fruitless, but if we put our trust in Jesus, and like you said, pull on that personal relationship. Lord, you know me.
Yeah.
And you've been with me, and you didn't pick me up to throw me away. You've got me. And even though I walk through the valley of the shadow and I've got all these things, it's not some kind of a goofy thing to say, okay, God didn't need two little angels, all those things you just said. But God is good.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that all things work together for the good, to them that love God, to them that are called according to his purposes. And you're holding
Yeah.
today, and he was giggling and talking and trying to sing throughout. You're telling their whole story of pain, and yet he is a testimony of there is a rainbow after the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even though we do go through storms, there will be a rainbow after the storm, and God has a way of showing up when you don't think he will.
Yeah. He says, many are the afflictions of the righteous.
Yep.
But the Lord delivereth him out of them all.
Amen.
All afflictions. And he didn't promise that you wouldn't go through stuff, but he did promise he will bring you out of them.
That's right.
So,
Yep.
and this is how he brought us out.
Yep.
With little Holden.
And we thank God for it.
Yeah.
We're so thankful. So thank y'all for telling your story, and I hope it helps somebody. Maybe just, maybe you'll understand some things. Maybe it'll help you through some things. Maybe Holden can sing us out of here. But anyway, we hope you enjoyed this. But be encouraged by this story. Don't be like, oh, that's so many times we just hear the painful things. Like, oh, I can't handle it, and so we back away from that. But no, just be encouraged by this to know God has His way in the whirlwind and in the storm, and we thank God that He is a sovereign God that loves His people, and truthfully, He'll not put so much on us that we can't bear.
Right.
Yeah.
But when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against it. So with that being said, we'll see y'all a little further down the road.
Thanks for tuning in. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. If you like to watch us, you can find us on the road home on YouTube. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. You can check us out on Instagram at the roadhome_podcast. If you'd like to email us, you can email us at the roadhomepodcast@yahoo.com. Thank you.